Welcome, everybody. We are live. My name is Alesh, and I'm here with Carmen and Stuart. And today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic, and not only interesting, but pretty impactful for all of our lives. And that's how not to mess up the New Year's resolutions this time. Because let's face it, more often than not, we do exactly that. I actually want to open up with something that's, I think, happens to everybody. I want to ask you, Carmen, what would be the biggest mess up you remember when, due to the lack of planning, due to the lack of execution, you actually ended up in a situation that you never ever want to repeat?
Yeah, thanks so much, Alish. It's really nice to be here with you and Stuart. I think it's going to be a really, really nice hour that we spend together. I wanted to say hi to everyone in the audience. If you can just leave a comment and say hi in your native language, hello, hello, salute, just to know that we have people around us. Oh, then you asked about the biggest. The messiest failure. It's one that is quite funny, and it happened to me quite recently. And it involved actually two of my clients from my coaching business. And I recently migrated to another platform that I did not yet know how to utilize, and I was not mindful of the time zone differences, nor was I mindful that I should activate that filtering to allow only some people to come in. So long story short, what happened was I had to, instead of me meeting two different coaching sessions, coaching clients, because of this hiccup, I actually got the two clients together in the same call. And now the funniest was they actually knew each other, but none knew about the other that they are working with me. So they thought I pranked them both, but it turned out to be a very funny event. But I did not do it on purpose. It was just because my technical skills were not up to scratch. So ever since, I am actually very careful of two things. So my learnings were really be mindful of the time zones, and whenever you're having conferences, just make sure there is a way of managing people in, so that you don't have the people that are not expected to be into the audience. So that was, yeah, luckily everything turned out to be funny in the end, but and memorable as well. But yeah, it was quite unusual at the moment.
I think
Yeah.
it's hilarious and it would be an amazing business proposition if you managed to charge them for coaching each other, right? But I'm assuming that's not what happened.
See, I didn't have this great idea at the time, but hey, this may be a new product or a new approach, as you say, Alice. Yeah.
Gotcha.
How
So
about you, Stuart?
Okay, shall I go? I don't know whether mine's as good as yours, Carmen, but certainly never again for me. First of all, I'll just say the same as you. Great to be with you guys. Good to see you, Alice, and Carmen, and hello to everyone else who's joined us. Yeah, mine. I a few years ago, I booked a family holiday. We were going to France, and it was a place that we'd been to quite a few times. So I didn't really pay that much attention to the detail. I just booked it, and then sort of everything seemed to fall into place. We had the holiday, and I just had the trip back as a Saturday. So we got to the end of the holiday. We'd had really good time. As always, no one wanted to go back, but packed everything up and headed back. We had to get to the port to catch the ferry. We were under pressure a little bit with time. Anyway, we managed to get there in time, but we couldn't get through the gate because actually, looking at the ticket, we'd actually booked the ferry for the day before. So there's a bit of a mismatch there, and we were in a bit of a panic the next day because we had to hang around and see if we could get catch the next ferry. See if there was a cancellation or anything. But anyway, the long and short of it was we managed to get back all right, but it's a bit stressful and a very costly mistake. So definitely something I would say not to do again. For me, I'd say don't make any assumptions. Any assumptions you make, you want to double check and make sure that you've got the details correct, and certainly when you're traveling.
love that one. Thank you, Stuart. And actually, that brings us to the topic of the day. So we're going to be talking about how to avoid costly blunders, costly mess ups, and how to project into the future in a way that support us in what we want to achieve, how we want to live our life, how we want to feel while living it. So our topic is New Year's resolution for 2024, how to set them right this time. And thanks to having Carmen and Stuart in here, I know this is going to be a fruitful conversation. But we don't want to just talk among the three of us. Please use the comments on the site, on whatever platform you're using, or use the chat for your questions and comments. We're going to be picking them up as we go. So just without further ado, Carmen, what is your way to avoiding this never again situation? How are you avoiding mess ups and blunders through, I guess, smart planning? What's your trick?
Yeah, planning is indeed a good trick, but it's also allowing a little bit of room for flexibility as well. Yeah, I used to be very problem focused when I was younger, and that would get me into a lot of anxiety. You know, probably you saw, and I actually could see my reaction when Stuart was mentioning his adventure earlier. I would have panicked. Should I have been in Stuart's shoes, I would have panicked because I was so focused on the problem. And what I've done a few years ago, I actually managed through a lot of coaching and really a lot of experiences. I managed to focus on moving the shift, the attention from the problem to the solution. So I always allow some flexibility to be able to think about what I'm facing and look at what is the best solution in that situation. Because yes, you can plan, and I'm a big fan of planning, because otherwise I would not achieve as much as I am in my life right now. But still, you know, when reality hits, your plans are going to not 100% match the reality. Yeah, there is a famous saying: if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Yeah, because they will not always happen 100% as you want them. So I think a little bit of flexibility needs to be factored in. I have actually a system in place where I am, you know, starting from the goals, from the resolutions, because sometimes, yeah, I also make them at New Year. Starting from the goals, I make then a system that is looking at putting milestones in place, in intermediary milestones, to make sure that I plan at least 1 week in advance. So that's my strategy nowadays.
Nice.
Yeah, I think
Stuart.
yeah, just the same really. I mean, I think first of all, it's really you need to be clear what it is you're trying to do, and often for thinking about New Year's resolution, for a lot of us, we just set these great big goals or aspirations that when you actually strip them back a little bit, they're very ambiguous. So it's it's easy to fall off the lose focus and lose interest and um, uh, back from actually doing it. So I think the first thing is to be really clear that it's something that you want to do and actually make it as focused as possible. And then to your point, Carmen, being flexible and adaptable to how you get there. Because if you're clear about the goal and the outcome that you want to achieve, and you're committed to doing that, then actually, you know, things change. A plan will always change, and it's about remaining committed and focused, but flexible about how you go about doing it. I'd reinforce that totally. Um, but I think for a lot of us, I think like 50% of us will set New Year's resolutions, but I think most of us have stepped back from actually doing those by after about 3 months. So probably to have some that are definite things that you want to do that are specific, that you can actually track progress against, that you've got a chance of achieving, um, and uh, and not to have too many, I'd say. And there's also the other thing there about, and this is where a coach comes in. There's something that you can sort of motivate yourself to do, but there's other things where we just need a little bit of support and a little bit of, I guess, being held to account. Because there's always, when things get a bit tough, it's quite easy to step back and say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it today" or whatever, but lose that focus. And I think once you've broken the habit, it's quite difficult to get back in and get back focused doing it. So it's always helpful to have another person just holding you to account and asking the difficult questions, the challenging questions to get you back on track and keep you focused, and also to keep your confidence and your sort of direction uh, clear.
Very true.
Yeah, it's
Thank you,
that
Stuart.
information of keeping the course. Yeah.
Speaking of focus, I want to say that you are our focus. So everybody who's watching in here, we are here to bring the best advice and suggestions for you. I see we already have some comments in here. So apologies for butchering your name, but Amarachi Uzodurumba, thank you so much for your comment in here. Amarachi says, when I face obstacles, I usually fret about the problem. I'm still learning to be solution oriented. Love the strategy, Carmen. So we have a comment in here. I want to encourage everybody, if you have questions, anything you want to ask us, everything you want to ask Stuart and Carmen, drop it in a comment like this. We're going to bring it on screen and we're going to answer.
Mm-hmm. Alice, can I raise my hand? And just related to this, I wanted to share very quickly a powerful question that is allowing our audience to even better become solution oriented, because
Totally.
it is a huge mental shift. But what I noticed out of all the questions, and coaches are asking really great questions. That's what really great coaches do. And I think one of the most powerful questions that I've learned a long time ago, and I've tested it on myself, and literally all the clients that work with me know it. It's a very simple and very it's basically putting your mind into the solution, which is what is missing. When you have a problem and you're asking yourself what is missing, automatically your mind goes from focusing or complaining about the problem to going to the solution. What is that gap between where I am now and the solution that I want, and how can I bridge it? So I would encourage everyone in the audience, next time when you're facing a problem and you do not know what the solution is, ask yourself what is missing. Yeah, and that is going to unlock a lot of opportunities, and it's a really good way to get unstuck as well.
Got it. Thank you, Carmen. That's pretty cool. What's missing for me now is Stuart. I'm picking the wisdom in here from Carmen. What is your tip you're giving to your clients, and how do you help them to deal with the challenges they are facing?
I think just on that question, it is what will be different. So I mean, on the back of what is missing, what will be different, and what is not working today. So what do I need to change? What do I want to change? And what does that look like? And what are the challenges or the blockers that are stopping me from doing that?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So let me check if we have questions in here, but I know that we kind of jumped right into the discussion. What I didn't do properly is to allow Carmen and Stuart to say what they are actually doing, how they are working with their clients. I'm going to just say clearly, both of them are supporting people like you in dealing with challenges regarding goal setting, mindset, and skill set needed to achieve living the life they want and pursuing their dreams. And of course, we're going to hear more from them. But rather than talking about how they work, I want them to provide the experience to you. And I see there are some questions in here. So I'll go right to that. Carmen, Stuart, feel free to pick them up. I'm going to put it on the screen, read a question, and you can jump right on it. So we have one from Palave Sidra. Again, Palave, apologies if I'm butchering your name a little. And the question is, should we inquire what's missing or focus more on what needs to get created?
Mm-hmm.
What's your take
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, it's basically when you're asking yourself, solutions will come to mind, and you will have a lot of options that your mind is going to simply generate, and then it's up to you to then rationally decide what needs to get created out of all the options that you've brainstormed with yourself. Which one is the winning one that you're going to implement? So that is my perspective on this. But sorry, Stuart, I would really welcome your perspective as well.
I guess a little bit for me is with what's missing is almost it's slightly negative, and how do I where do I want to get to, and where am I today, and how do I get to that So what are those steps that I need to take? How will that enrich my life today, or how will that goal, what outcome will that bring for me, and how will that make my life better, whether it be on a personal level or a professional level? And I think if we can embrace that from a positive perspective, then even if we don't actually achieve the goal, it's a positive experience, because the very fact that we've gone through that process and identified uh, where we're trying to get to, and we've taken an action, is a positive step in itself, however small that step is, because it's a sign of we're building up energy, we're building up a positive momentum, which can subsequently lead us to bigger steps, and I'm feeling good about the fact that we've stepped forward, we've been brave, and we've taken the courage to actually go and try something out. And it removes the fear of failure, I think, which is really important, because often it is about just going for it and taking the courage to give it a go.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. So as I said just a minute ago, we are taking your questions and insights. So keep them coming. For now, I would like to actually ask both Carmen and Stuart. So suppose I'm going to be the guinea pig here, in the interest of the audience and myself. I'm a bit selfish in here. Suppose I am putting together my New Year's resolution. I actually do that every year. I do like a yearly reflection. I'm using something called Year Compass, which you can Google. It's like a booklet with a set of questions that are suggested to be asked to reflect the elapsed year and starting the new one. So I'm about to be doing that now. Suppose Carmen, suppose Stuart, that I am your pro bono client. You are helping me to go through this. Any tips, any suggestions? What would be the typical struggle someone like me might be facing, and how are you helping clients to go through that?
Do you want me to start? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. First of all, yeah, I have clients that a lot of them set the New Year's resolutions. I'm actually shifting them towards resolution that are taken more often, because I really believe in taking smaller steps rather than the bigger steps. But overarching, you also need to have big goals, and the new year is just a good moment to set them. Yeah, there are also other events in your life that can act as milestones that can trigger some new resolution making. But usually we do the resolutions at New Year's. First of all, I'm actually checking with my clients two things. I'm checking if their goals are SMART. Yeah. And what that means is basically I'm checking, have they specified exactly what they want to achieve? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? And do they have a deadline? Is it time bound? Yeah. And I'm also checking with them the why behind each individual goal, because it's not obvious, but the goals that have an intrinsic motivation have a bigger likelihood to be achieved than the ones that have an extrinsic motivation. Very quickly, intrinsic motivation means that you are doing it just because you really want it. There is some fire inside of you that is just saying, hey, I really enjoy this, I would love this for myself. And you are motivated by the passion that is not depending on the external circumstances. Extrinsic motivation means that you're looking outside, and from the exterior in, you're making those goals. They are usually related to some achievements that are in the material, social area that basically can be shown to others as well. Yeah, so that's the difference. So why I'm starting with these two, because I really, and I'm testing ruthlessly that why that my clients have, because if I see them not going deep enough, then we may need to fine tune that goal to actually match that motivation that needs to be there. And where possible, I move them from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. And then the next step is really setting milestones until the next year, so that they get to observe the progress and course correct if it's needed. Because what we do not want to do is have them, the goals written down on a piece of paper that just gets lost and forgotten until 31st of December next year, and then they realize, oops, none of my goals have been done. So yeah, that's very high level what my system that I'm using.
Got it. Pretty good. Stuart, how's your different?
I mean, it's similar in the sense that obviously the goal, we need it to be specific, and we can measure it. It's achievable and relevant, and we've got a sort of timeline to it. I guess the other thing I would ask is, in achieving that goal, what outcome do you get? Because sometimes what I find that uncovers is actually they think that the goal that they're working towards is going to give them something, and actually, when you really drill down into the outcome that they're trying to achieve, actually the goal is not they're looking at something. We need to focus on something different. So I find really getting really clear on that outcome is important, because and then we can work backwards from there. And then also, there's often an assumption made that if I do these things, these are the things that I need to do in order to achieve the goal. And again, we can challenge that and just get really clear that by taking these steps, they are going to, they're the priorities. They're going to deliver what they're trying to achieve. And I think also, as Carmen said, it's about small steps, and it's about being able to track progress, and in doing that, those steps can sort of feed into bigger actions and build up confidence, and provide a sort of platform to keep moving forward. So I think all of that is really important. But the other thing I'd say is just giving people, or giving my clients, the opportunity to have that conversation and really talk through it and follow that process. It's also and with someone who is sort of not party to what they're doing, it's quite a good way for them just to test any decisions they've made and really get comfortable with what it is that they're trying to achieve, and out of that we can uncover any blockers or challenges, or mitigating steps that we need to deal with, which can often be things that we initially focus on, because once we've addressed those, then the actual actions to work towards the goals can be a bit easier to focus on. I think the whole process of working through that is really important, and it gives people a better chance of success.
Got it. Oh, thank you, Stuart. And I like what you both brought into the discussion, that the goals, of course, are important, but it's important to go a little bit beyond. Like Stuart, you phrase it like, what is the outcome? And Carmen, you said, what is the why behind each of the goals? I love that, because I realize how common this is when talking to people. We Many people, and I'm gonna throw myself under the bus, including myself. I have goals, or I had goals in the past. It's like, I want to get that. For me, by the way, it was getting a law degree. I believe it or not, I tried to get a law degree for 20 years. No kidding. Yeah, that's how old I am. And I dropped off once, and I started again, etc., etc. And most of the time, it was, to Carmen's point, it would be extrinsically motivated. How cool I'm gonna be in front of the other people when I get that degree, rather than, do I really want it? And it took me years before I asked myself, okay, what is this goal? If I achieve it, what is it gonna give me? And only much later I said, like, hey, I don't even want to be a lawyer. Why am I doing this, right? And so many of us don't even go there. So that's my story. But I guess, Carmen, Stuart, maybe if you can give me an example or two, working with your clients, what would be this insight or aha moment when the life of your client shifts, and they realize that they need to change direction because they've been maybe chasing the wrong rabbit?
Okay, well, I was working with a footballer who'd had to retire because of injury. He was a Premier League footballer, recent client of mine, and obviously the focus for him, pretty much since he was about 5 years old, had been football, and that was all he knew. And he had a lot of capability, but he just, because he was stepping out of that environment, he didn't see himself as being successful, or having any transferable skills, or being able to build a life for himself in a different environment. And it'd taken him a couple of years to basically just uh, thinking that he could do certain things, but never really committing to them. Anyway, we started to work together, and the first thing was really um, for him to be able to reflect on what he'd achieved as a footballer, but also some of the challenges that he'd worked through, the commitment that he and the sort of dedication that he put into that, some of the achievements that had come as a result of that, and then realizing that actually those were those were those were transferable to anything in life, and actually uh, he 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 was in there were a lot of things that he could do and be really successful at. And actually, once he was started working on that mindset and started to feel a little bit more positive, he was able to make some good progress. And this sort of picks up on the point that we were touching on earlier about small steps. So we identified some small steps that he took away, and actually, based on the experience that he'd had previously and the dedication and commitment uh, to that as a footballer, he was able to actually um, achieve those quickly, and it just started to build up a bit of momentum. And then he started to you know identify on the back of that things that he could do, and there was work in the media that he could do, leveraging his sporting experience, but also bring in some other things that he was interested in. And actually, very quickly, he's moved forward massively, having been in quite a sort of sensitive place for a couple of years. But just working through that and getting a new perspective on his achievements, and putting them into the context of a different world other than a sporting environment, has been a really good process for him. And he's a lot clearer on his strengths and also what he's looking to get out of his life. And he's now entered the next phase, the next chapter, and that's giving him a lot of satisfaction, rather than looking back and at something that he's not going to be able to do again. So I think that has been a positive experience, and certainly um, the whole process for him has been invaluable.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. Carmen, do you have a similar one, or you want to shift to a different topic?
I just wanted to share how powerful really doing this exercise when you set the goals to ask yourself, why am I doing this, is because you probably heard of the method called 5 why. It's very used in process improvement. I'm actually going in coaching into 7 whys. So basically, we go with my clients through an exercise of, why do I want to do this? Yeah, and I want to do this because, and then we really peel the onion and we go 7 layers deep. And that's when majority of my clients have their aha moments, because they realize that the initial level of goal setting was very shallow. And the more they go into the depth, the more they test, is this really the right achievement for me? Is this the right pursuit? And also they do a little inventory of what makes them do them, what motivates them, what drives them to do it. And this is always a memorable exercise because it's a lot of reflection. There isn't, it's like 50-50 in 50% of the cases they keep the goal. In 50% we adjust it to be different depending on how we went deeper. But it's always memorable because the moment their motivation goes down, they go back to the 7 why exercise, and that can happen throughout the year. I've actually had someone, so it's someone in the banking industry, and he is doing a lot of very high level merging and acquisition in the banking industry, and he basically wanted to advance in his career, but then was not sure of the reason why. And when we went through this exercise, his reason was actually intrinsic motivation. We validated it together. And ever since this happened 4 months ago, ever since almost monthly, he's checking into his why. And whenever the environment is too complex or too stressful for him to make progress. So whenever he hits a wall, he goes back to the paper where he wrote his why 7 levels deep and reminds himself, and that's actually fuel to continue pursuing the respective goal. So yeah,
Right.
that's very powerful.
The wise is a tricky one, isn't it, Carmen? Because often it, actually being able to answer that question takes quite a bit of time. It's not an
Yeah,
easy question to answer, and
you're
often
right.
it's we don't actually get asked it very often.
Mm,
Um, and we need a bit of time to just really work through the why. I find that, and also personally as well, people have asked me why, why are you doing this or whatever, and when you step back and really think about it, it's not always clear. It's sort of something that you've raced to do or you've just made an assumption
mm,
about, but and it's really important, and also, as you say, to revisit it.
mm,
It can be a good way to remind yourself through a tough time that actually this is why I'm doing it, and you don't lose sight of the driver, the rationale for doing it, and it gives you renewed focus. And also picking up on the point earlier about outcome and the route that we take, it's in that moment that we can be adaptable and flexible about the route because we're very clear about the why, we're very clear on the goal and the outcome and the value that that's going to bring. And actually, it's a bit tricky at the moment. There's some challenges that I'm facing, but you know what? I'm really committed to this. My commitment is not wavering. So yes, I'm going to have to take a slightly different route, but we're still going on that. And I think having that is a really really powerful tool to be able to put into play.
I think one more thing that's important and essential, I guess, in your professions is to create safe environment for the client, because oftentimes when I've been in this situation and as a coachee or even as a coaching to support someone else, people feel threatened sometimes, right? It's not nice. When I was asked, why do you want to achieve that? I felt intimidated. Why do you want to get a law degree? I was like, I don't know. Why didn't I ask myself this question for 5 years? What does it say about me? And that's a tough spot where you need to support your people
mm,
to let them kind of push through gently.
I would say, Alice. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest value of a coach. Really, is having that sort of secure environment to have that conversation, and also the time to think through a question that's asked. I always think sometimes not being pressured to answer the question, being able to digest it and just think it through. Because people do take time. There's people who react quickly, and then there's other people who like to just ponder and think things through. And we need to allow people to have that time to arrive at the answer that they're comfortable with. And I think that's one of the biggest values that a coach can bring, really, and building up, a trust and um, uh, an environment in which they're comfortable to be themselves. And often I find that people might share um, things with me that they perhaps don't share with friends and even family. They're and certainly away from a work environment. There's quite a lot of people I work with who are they have their own business or they're leading a team, and there's certainly things in there where they might be feeling a little bit vulnerable, that they're not going to expose that, or they don't feel comfortable to expose that and share that with any people that they're they're either leading or employing. And again, that's why a coach can be really helpful, just to go through that. And I certainly think a lot of the feedback that I get is that obviously, getting to that place where we've hopefully achieved what we set out to, but the big part is having that environment and that person to talk to as we go through that process. Is a real benefit, a real value that a coach, having a good coach, can bring to you. I don't know, Carmen, is that something that you find?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm also doing, I'm also an NLP practitioner, and I'm also doing hypnotherapy. And then creating a very safe space for the clients is just an absolute must. So that's the foundation we start from, because it is, I often joke and say I'm hearing too much from my clients because they feel very comfortable to share a lot. But in that sharing, it's not only the trust that is exchanged, but also a really good energy, if I may say so, for uncovering further the help that they need. Because with every little detail that they share, they actually allow me to tap more into their personalities, into their coping mechanisms, into the mental models that they have, and that actually helps me be a better coach. So I absolutely agree, Stuart, that environment of trust and that feeling of support, I think that is something that it's an absolute must to nurture from the beginning of a coaching relationship, and even before. I'm doing a lot of pro bono work as well, and I'm doing a lot of mentoring as well. And I think that is also something, a nice way for us to pay forward and create a safe environment for others to reach out for a helping hand and reach out for help. So
I think another thing is when we're able to relate to some of the challenges or the similar experiences that they're facing. I mean, if I think from a personal perspective, there's a number of things that I've had epilepsy, and there's some challenges that have come with that, and just having gone through that challenge and if you like, come out with having worked through those and for it not to have pushed me off track. Sometimes that works well with a client, because there's things that they can see that, for dealing with adversity, for example, actually we don't need to shy away from that, and I can relate to someone who I can see has dealt with adversity and come out and been it's been a positive experience, and I think there's a level of credibility, and it helps to enrich in that relationship, which again is important. And I think at the beginning, being able to show some link is a good way to get that relationship going.
absolutely, the more relatable we are, the better for the relationship, and then for the results that we can drive together. Absolutely.
There's one thing I
No,
wanted to
Carl.
ask both of you. Sorry to cut you off, Stuart. I didn't. You wanted to finish the thought.
No, I was just going to say to Karma, I was going to ask the question whether you work with groups of people or whether it's very specifically one-to-one for you.
Yeah, for some very interesting reason, I don't resonate with groups. Not for now. I'm not into that space, because I really believe each individual is unique, and with group environments you can only go so far. So I used to cover a lot of coaching in groups for basic fundamental notions, but then to take people to the next level, I prefer the one-to-one setting, because I find it's much more focused, it's much more results driven, and it can be tailored to the needs of the individual. I tailor a lot to the needs of my clients, because I combine various methods of coaching, as I said, and therapy as well. So I always speak what is the best, not even for the person, it's for the problem that we are going to solve. I have repeat clients because we solve a problem and then they go away, they are happy, and then they come back with another one that is completely different. And then we may apply a completely different method and a different approach. So to answer your question, yeah, I'm more a one-to-one person, but I speak a lot. So what I'm really, really passionate about are actually events. I'm a public speaker and I speak a lot on specific topics. My favorite nowadays, because they are very, very very much in demand, are related to anxiety, to stress at work, and to career advancement. So those are the topics that I talk about a lot. Alex, over to you. I think you wanted to ask another question.
No, it's all good. I'm just getting captivated by the topics, and I'm always drawn to kind of follow up down the rabbit holes. But I'm gonna stop myself in here because what we promised is talking a little bit about the goal setting, the New Year's resolution. And by the way, I do understand that not for all of us in the audience, the New Year's is January the 1st, right? I mean, we have diverse audience in here. But suppose if you are starting a new cycle, setting up goals, you want to make sure that you can follow up, achieve what you really, really want. Suppose you did work with the 5 whys, or in Carmen's case, 7 whys, which is 2 more, and you don't want to stumble so much. Stuart, you mentioned something that caught my attention, which is that most of the resolutions or goals, they will fall apart within 3 months. There is, of course, a lot of studies and data around that, and we know that people buy gym membership and then they never use them. I'm the same. I mean, I know what's going to happen, and I know what's predictable for me to happen. I do my year reflection. I do like to use the springboard of the new years to get energized and to kind of move forward. But then as the year progresses, it tends to fall apart. What seemed to have been strong motivation and drive, it kind of either fizzles away or something happened, right? It could be a personal emergency, it could be a workload issue, and I never really go back. Would you have any advice for our audience regarding how to prevent it, what to do with it, how to prepare for it better, that they can apply while planning?
Yeah, the main thing is to make sure that it's not ambiguous. It's very easy, and this is where I think New Year's resolutions are quite different to goal setting, because often we
Hmm.
say, "I want to get fitter this year," or "I want to, improve my diet or lose some weight." But actually, it's very vague, and it's quite difficult to achieve that. And more often than not, we look at that as if we're we're s- we're not making the progress that we should, and then we start to feel negative about it, and um and not see the expectations that we've got might be completely unrealistic. So I'd say that I think the key thing is to, first of all, not have too many, make them, coming back to the point earlier about specific and measurable, make them specific. So um if 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 you are going to uh, get fitter, or try and make it so that it's around something like you're going to do some exercise 3 times a week, or you're going to run every other day, or something like that, so that you can say that you're actually doing that. Um, and then I think also, as I say, not to have too many. Sometimes we set lots and lots, and then um, they we sort of lose interest in them. And I think if we have some key ones, it sort of, as we said earlier, that we're very clear on the outcome, the benefit that that's going to bring, we're much more likely to stick with it. And I guess also with it's getting into a habit is difficult, but it's very easy to fall out of a habit. So the minute we start to slip against the actual resolution that we've made, it's difficult to get back on track with that.
Sure. Can I ask you one? I mean, you said not to have too many. What do you have like a magic number? If I show up and say, I have 17, we say, would you try to negotiate down to 15 with me, or would you say you should have 3?
I mean, at the end of the day, if you achieve 1, then that's good. So it's. I mean, 17 is crazy. I don't think you're going to do that, Alice. But 2, 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably, because the other thing is you can, if you've got them linked to time, by the end of the first quarter, and this comes back to small steps, we could have achieved or what we've said we wanted to achieve, and it might be an opportunity or a time to bring some others into the sort of plan, if you like. But I think it's better to have less and be really clear about the things that you need to do in order to do it, and get into a habit of just working through those steps, and are comfortable holding yourself to account so that you can actually achieve that, and feel positive about the fact that you're working through that and you're actually sticking with it. I mean, that in itself is a positive thing to do. It's an achievement to set a goal and then to actually try and achieve it. I don't know, Carmen, what would your magic number be? Is there anything? How many New Year's
go with
resolutions
you.
did you have last year?
I go with you. The magic number is free. Everything that exceeds free requires much more effort. So, and even free, if those are big and hairy goals, even free is a lot. So this, I'll be very honest and very transparent. This year, I only took one resolution. And you're going to laugh about it, but I'm going to share it anyway, because whoever I'm sharing it with, they say, oh, that's unexpectedly deep. So my only resolution for this year was to listen to my own advice. That's it. What I'm telling my clients to do, I should do myself. And man, that was very powerful. So this year I've achieved so much more things that I've not achieved before. So that was my New Year's resolution for this year. It's ticked. But the beauty of it is I've actually changed it into a system. And this is what I'm doing with my clients as well. So let's say they take a goal beginning of the year. I'm going to take writing, because this was one of my goals, my ideas before, and I implemented the system last year before I actually had my New Year resolution that I mentioned earlier. So when we have a goal, I'm always building a system around it. And the system has 2 elements. One is milestones in time that is going to allow for progress inspection and course correction. That's usually monthly. If it's a yearly goal, that's every month you put aside half an hour to inspect where you are with the respective goal. Are you happy with the progress? What else is planned for the next month? Do you need to course correct? Do you need to change anything? Because the system itself is in creating the habits. Now, to your point earlier, Stuart, it's not easy to create new habits, but it's very possible. And it is only a matter of knowing how to make new habits stick. And there are actually 2 rules for new habits to stick. One is to make it very, very easy to do. And the second is to make that habit, to link it to something that is already familiar, so that there is that cue, that trigger for the new habit to be reinforced up to the moment it becomes subconscious and it's truly an automatic habit. So going back to my example with the writing, let's say that you really want to be able to write, let's say, fiction by the end of the year in a way that is allowing you to write a book. That means the system around it is a review of every month of the progress that you made with your habits, and the habit being writing every day. Now, of course, writing every day is just simple to say, but if you don't put a system around it, after a week, you are not going to do it, because we are just going to resist the effort when you don't see immediately the results of the work or the benefits of the work. And then you have to make it really easy. Choose a time of the day when you're going to do it, and choose another habit that you already have to make it happen. Yeah. So I actually have a client of mine. She is fantastic. She tells the best stories, and she wanted to put them in writing. So now what she is doing actually for the last 6 months is, ever since she finished brushing her teeth in the morning, she's taking the notepad. She's a pen and paper girl, and she's writing one page. Okay, she started with unprompted writing, and now she started writing the story, because the ultimate goal is to write a book. Yeah, but by having this daily habit, now it's automatic, because every morning in front of the mirror in the bathroom is the pen and paper, is a notebook. It's very easy to do. Yeah, and it's very unusual when she travels, for example, because then things are not in the same place. Yeah, so I'm a big advocate of, once you set up a goal, to look at what are the inspection points to course correct, and also what are the habits that are required by the goal to be done every single day, to make sure that the progress is made. So this is why I'm talking mostly about goals and systems around them. And of course, the more complex the goal, the more systems. So it may be the case that one habit is not enough. And that's the complication of it, because you cannot introduce multiple habits in the same time. You can, but it's very difficult. So.
Got it. Carmen, we have a question in here which you may have already answered, but I'm going to put it on screen and allow also Stuart to add to it. It's a question from Laura Praget or Praget. One of them is wrong, I'm sure. So Laura, I hope that one of them is closer to how it should be pronounced. And your question is, how do you keep yourself accountable long term? I started putting my to-dos in my calendar, which is a Carmen suggestion, and that works for my daily tasks. How do you do a more long-term goal? Suggestions to complement the calendar. So that's the question here. Carmen, you answered it partially, I believe, but maybe you have some more secret sauce down there. So anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think, and thank you, Laura, for the question. Aleš definitely butchered your name, but you'll forgive him, I'm sure. Yeah, there is another element to having everything that you do visible in the calendar. It's also having those recurring inspection points when you look at where I am and where do I want to be. And that's especially important when the goal that you have is very, very, there is a big gap in between the goal and where you are right now, especially if you are talking about skills. Yeah. So in other words, if you set aside every month, I do this on Sunday morning with a cup of coffee and my notebook. Yeah, I just set some time aside for reflection of how the last month went, what are the learnings, what's the progress, and also what's the way forward. And I always adjust something. And that's also a moment when you can get creative, and there will be other ideas that you're thinking of implementing. So in other words, if it's a longer term goal, first of all, you need to break it down into very small, actionable next steps. But in between those next steps, I think it's important to regularly take the time to reflect on the progress, and also see what drives you to go forward, and how can you fine tune to get closer to achieving what you want to achieve. So I hope I answered the question, but I'm also curious, Stuart, from your perspective, if you see it differently or you have other experience that works in practice.
No, I think I was just going to say that the whole self-reflection is an example of um, a really positive outcome from just going through the process of trying to, setting yourself up to try and achieve a goal, because it's such a valuable approach to take for everything that you do. And it's actually something that we can do, for 5 minutes or so at the end of the day, just to think about, what's gone well, what do I take forward with me, what would I do differently. I guess the other thing I'd add in there, and I know you've sort of touched on that with the sort of the touch point, is what does good look like, so that we're always clear about, you can measure the progress, and it doesn't have to be too heavy, but being clear that either it's all good, in which case just keep doing more of the same? Are there some quick things that we could do differently, or actually, we need to really think about this and take a completely different approach? And I think if you can get that clear, and then apply the reflection method, I think the combination of those will give you a much better chance of being successful in realizing that.
Yeah, I really like that idea of what does good look like, because many times, yeah, it's something that is built throughout the progress. So that's a really good question, really powerful one for reflection and introspection. Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart, for this one. And I guess, I feel a bit guilty already because I'm realizing, oh my God, do I even know? When did I ask this question to myself? But that's definitely one of my takeaways from this session. I'm checking for more questions. I think we have time for one more question. So if you want to ask Stuart or Carmen anything, just bring it on. I'm scoping here for the question. In the meantime, I would like to actually ask both of you, if we want more of this good stuff, if we want to hear from you, if you want to get more tips, or suppose one of the audience would like to work with you on one-on-one basis, Carmen, because you don't do teams, right? With Stuart, I don't know how it's going to be, but where can we find more about what you do? Where can we get more of your content?
I'll answer that first, Ali. Well, obviously you can look at my profile on LinkedIn. I post daily. There's an explanation there of the work that I'm doing and the sort of scenarios that I'm covering with my clients. So hopefully that will give you some insight. You can reach out to me, drop me a DM asking me any questions, and I'll get straight back to you. Or you can take a look at my website, and the address is on the bottom of the page to have a look. And again, come back with any questions that you might have, and I'll be delighted to answer those and engage and see whether I can add any value for what you're trying to achieve.
Got it. For those of you who are just listening to the recording, Stuart's website is stellarcoach.co.uk, because that's what he is. I'm also going to put his email on the screen in case you want to email him. It's stuart@stellarcoach.co.uk. How about you, Carmen?
Yeah, so my site is actiontaker.me. I have a section with free resources, and I've started a newsletter as well. So if you go to actiontaker.me/newsletter, that's where you can subscribe and get every week either life lessons from me or just tips and tricks on productivity, on mental models, on clarity, and really how to become at ease. Really how to get rid of everything that is no longer serving you and really move forward to the most at ease version of yourself. So that's what I'm doing. So it's actiontaker.me/newsletter if you want to stay in touch.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carmen. And I'm actually going to ask both of you, because we are almost on the top of the hour. I'm going to ask you for parting thoughts. So if there was one thing, one takeaway, except of course, Carmen, signing up for your newsletter, or Stuart reaching out, anything that you would recommend people to definitely take away from this session, what would be your parting thought? Stuart, maybe you start.
I'd say go for it. Don't be afraid of failure. Think through the things that we've talked about. So obviously, give yourself a chance of success and be really clear what it is that you're trying to achieve. But don't be fearful of not getting to that place. And all the things that we've talked about, so the process and the systems that Carmen alluded to, obviously the self-reflection aspect, and just the very fact that you've committed and you've taken some steps, is a really good sort of foundation for everything else in life. And as I said earlier, whether you get to the end goal or not is almost, obviously that would be great, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. It's the very fact that you've gone through that process, and it provides you leverage to go on to the next thing. And I just think getting into that that whole process of taking action and stepping forward is a brave move, and it's a good place to get to, and it's sort of it's a very positive mindset to embrace, which will give you lots of opportunity and prepare you for other things that come up. So that would be my message to everybody on the call or in the session.
Thank you,
I don't
Stuart.
know, Carmen, what would you say?
Yeah, I'm going in a similar direction, Stuart. But I wanted to remind everyone in the audience and to us as well that we never regret the things that we've done. We regret mostly the things that we do not do. In other words, just go for it. It's not going to be perfect, but then at least you will know that you've given your best and you tried it. And there is no failure. It's only learning and moving forward. Yeah. So it's only a matter of how do you manage your mind and how do you propel your actions to allow them to take you forward. Always remembering that it's really up to you. You always have a choice, and you really it's really up to you to empower yourself to make the best choices that are in alignment with your true goals and aspirations and dreams.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Carmen. Thank you, Stuart. And thank you all who have been watching us live, and also to the generation that are coming later to watch the recordings. And I believe these are going to be dozens and hundreds. So thanks again. My name is Aleš. If you want more of me, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, of course. And if you want Stuart's or Carmen's contacts or information, you've heard them, you can find them on LinkedIn as well. Hopefully going to reach out. I'm going to wish you a brilliant end of this week, end of this year, and a lot of strength to your yearly planning. Thank you so much.